Hey y'all, happy Monday. So we're going to pick up still digging into our Psalm 1 this week, and we are in Take It Deeper of day 17 if you're following along with us in our book. So we ended last week digging into John 16:33, where Jesus said, in this world, in this life, you will have trials, tribulations, distresses, and frustration, but be of good cheer. Take courage, be confident, certain, and undaunted, for I have overcome the world. I've deprived it of power to harm you and have conquered it for you. And that when we meditate on the teachings, precepts, and instructions of God, that becomes, solid foundation on the inside of us that remains and helps us to be stable and fixed. So we talked about the victories. Jesus overcame death, hell, and the grave, everything that entered the world when sin came in so that we could overcome. So these victories, though, only come, so Psalm 1 talks about the blessed one, the godly, the obedient, and the not blessed one, the cursed one, really, because if there's blessing and curse, there's really not an in-between there. So the cursed one, and if you go through Deuteronomy, if you hearken to the voice of the Lord, you're blessed. If you don't, you're cursed. So the ungodly and the disobedient. So we, those of us who profess to be followers, we've talked about that, of Christ, we cannot walk like the wicked and the ungodly and expect to see God's hand at work in our lives. He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. He constantly calls to us, but he cannot bless sin. He cannot. You can read through the New Testament, even like Ananias and Sapphira. They lied to the Holy Spirit, killed them. They died for lying. So, we must reverence the holiness of God, and as Paul said in Romans, we don't take advantage of the Holy Spirit, of grace. We don't continue sinning. We honor it, and that's what we're getting into today. So we can't walk like the wicked and ungodly and expect to see God's hand at work in our lives. 1 John 3:9 says, no one born or begotten of God deliberately, knowingly, and habitually practices sin. Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because if we have submitted our lives to the Lordship of Jesus Christ and we are following him and his example, did he deliberately, knowingly, and habitually practice sin? No, Jesus was the sinless, perfect one. Well, if we're to follow his example, we're not going to do it either, nor are we going to look for an excuse to do it. So, no one born of God deliberately, knowingly, and habitually practices sin, for God's nature abides in him. His principle of life, the divine sperm, remains permanently within him, and he cannot practice sinning because he is born of God. When we are born again, and when we submit our lives to Jesus as Lord and Master, the old sinful nature is a dead man. Our spirit is born again and is like Jesus' spirit. The very Spirit of God resides in us, lives and abides in us. Our job now, as born again followers of Jesus, is to train our flesh how to walk like Jesus walked. We don't live like we lived before giving our life to Jesus. If that were the case, why would it be necessary to be born again? The change in our heart, thoughts, and actions is an outward manifestation of the change that took place inside. It's an outward manifestation of the change in our soul. Once the chaff, y'all remember we talked about the chaff and the seed, once the chaff is separated from the seed, it's usually burned, leaving no trace of its existence. God created you for purpose. Don't let your enemy, Satan, steal that from you. Old things are passed away, and all things have been made new. Make the decision to walk like the blessed one. It will very rarely be the popular choice, but it will always be the right choice. And we'll pick it up tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.